I want to take a step back and just think of that. You remember the book we read by Kevin Hall, Aspire? Remember that book?
Yep.
One of the things he talks about is he breaks apart the word leader into two parts, Leia and Dur, the pathfinder. And then he uses a different word, success, which actually comes from the word seed, C-E-D-E. And that word I've always found interesting because my dad was loved to work in the garden. He was a master gardener. And that word seed means success means to push up through something. And I really think the combination of what I learned in that book of looking at that final piece, what is humus or humility, that ability to have enriched soil that accepts a seed that grows up through something. I think that's where great leadership comes from, because without the seed, without the enriched soil, the humility, the leader or the pathfinder doesn't know the path to follow. I had a gentleman ask me one time, said, how do you know if it's a great leader or not? And a lot of people would say, well, I just have to look at, who's following them. And then he said, well, I mean, that's one way to look at it, who's following that leader. But the reality is, I think great leadership comes from who you follow. And so I've always kept that in mind. What's your standard? What's your right and wrong when it comes to who you follow? And if you decide who you follow, then people can look at you and say, okay, that's someone I'd be willing to follow, because I've seen over time they actually have a standard in which they follow themselves. So that Leia Dur, or that pathfinder, is the ability to find a path that you've discovered before and then help someone down it. I think he does a great job using an illustration of a fox hunt, and in that fox hunt, those people are looking at the opportunity to follow someone that knows the path. They know the obstacles, they know the pitfalls, they know all these things, and so they follow them through that path. So you put all those things together. That pathfinder is the person that already knows the path, but how do they learn the path? They learn it because they've had seeds planted throughout their life that they've seen success from. And more importantly, they have enriched soil, that's the humus, the humility, in order to continue to have those seeds. So I have a quote up that's in the leadership development program that we run, and the quote says, your capacity to grow determines your capacity to lead. And that's the most important thing to me, is that if I'm not willing to grow, then I don't have a chance to continue to share new paths and new levels of success with people. So that's always where I start. What can I learn from someone else? What can I learn from the audience? What can I learn as I'm teaching? Because the more I learn, the more I have the ability to teach other people those great paths of success.